Is Nancy Pelosi ready to retire, or is she going to make the mistake that every politician these days seems to do, which is to hold on to power for way too long and essentially be governing right up until death? We will soon find out. We have a tweet yesterday from Nancy Pelosi's Deputy Chief of Staff. Colin, we can pull that up on the screen. Speaker Pelosi has been overwhelmed by calls from colleagues, friends, and supporters. This evening, the Speaker monitored returns in 3 remaining critical states. The Speaker plans to address her future plans tomorrow to her colleagues. Stay tuned. For those of you who don't know me, I am Louis DeAngelis, working here with Status Coup. Before we kind of get into what my thoughts are on all of this, we've also got a lot of reaction from the Republicans already on Pelosi and whether or not she's going to decide to run again after this term. It is now clear that she will not be Speaker of the House, as Republicans have gained the majority in the House. We have a tweet here from Mike Pence that we will pull up. I found this pretty funny considering, Republicans are celebrating that they took the House now. The fact that they're celebrating it all is kind of a joke because, in my opinion, the Republicans should have taken the House by probably triple what they took it by numbers-wise. They're going to have the slimmest of majorities possible. They also really should have taken the Senate, but some poor strategy leading up to the campaign led to what we have now, which is nothing close to what was being described as a red wave, a red tsunami. If anything, it is a red trickle or drip at this point that by pure chance essentially gives the Republicans the House of Representatives. We can read that tweet from Mike Pence if you want to pull that up on the screen, Colin. Congratulations to our new and re-elected Republican members of Congress. Because of your dedication to the American people and to American freedom, Republicans have won the House and fired Nancy Pelosi once and for all. The great American comeback is here. Wow. The great American comeback is barely winning the House. Barely. That's the great American comeback. I don't know. If I'm a member of the Republican Party, I'm taking a hard look at who is in charge and making some decisions. I mean, I'm not convinced at this point, we're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi in a second, but I'm not convinced at this point that Republican leadership is all going to stay exactly where they are. I mean, if members of the House on the Republican side just go ahead and willy-nilly elect Kevin McCarthy again after this poor performance, I mean, I think they need to be taking a hard look at who's running the party and what direction things need to go. So that'll be an interesting thing to follow over the next couple weeks. But let's get this back into the one and only Nancy Pelosi. Personally, I do not think that this is going to be the last we see of Nancy Pelosi, at least trying to be the Speaker of the House again. I definitely think that we see her run again in 2024. My rationale for this is this. I think right now, the establishment Democrats, primarily Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, I think that these folks really think that Democrats held on to the Senate and prevented losing the House by such a large majority because of them. The establishment Democrats came in and did exactly what they needed to do to win over the American voters, yada, blah, blah, blah. So I think for the same reason that these results, again, it is significant. I don't want to give them, no credit here. This is, generally in a midterm election, the House or the Senate will flip, usually in much larger numbers. I mean, this is the best scenario for a midterm election for a president, essentially since JFK. The fact that this happened with Joe Biden as president, with his approval ratings where they are, surprise to me. I did not think that this election cycle was going to go the way it did, but it did, and that is a reality. So I think for the same reason that Joe Biden is being bolstered up and feeling like, hey, there's a lot of momentum here, I'm definitely going to run again. I think Nancy Pelosi is going to want to do the same thing and try to build up on this. These folks get into power and they want to keep it, right? So I think that, for a lot of the same reasons that Joe Biden is going to run again, we're going to see Nancy Pelosi sticking around. But who knows? We will hear some information in a statement from Pelosi today or tomorrow. We'll see what's in there. My guess is it's not going to be anything definitive. It's going to be wishy-washy, leaving the door open if she wants to run again in the future. We will absolutely see what happens there. But in general, I really think that instead of taking all the credit themselves, the real reason that the Democrats did as well as they did was not because of any specific policy that they did or any specific thing that they, said that they were going to do. I think is purely on the issue of abortion as a big one. And not because of the Democrats doing anything abortion. We talked the other day about how, Joe Biden already said they are going to do nothing about it. Thanks for all your donations, though. Instead, I think it's on where the GOP is on abortion and so many of the candidates that they had running with such extreme positions on the issue. No exceptions for rape, no exceptions for incest. Those are issues that, again, we spoke with conservative voters in Pennsylvania. Even they said, hey, you know what, I think that's a little bit too far. And I don't support candidates who are, running on these, frankly, extreme issues. Again, I don't think that folks were necessarily voting for Democrats because they thought they were going to fix the problem, but because they thought that they were going to prevent it from getting worse in select states. We'll see if that comes to bear fruition later, but that's where I think it is on that. However, though, I think Democrats could have done even better if they actually started to push forward on more of the things that they said they were going to do. There's a world in which, the House went 5 seats to the Democrats instead of roughly 5 seats to the Republicans here, and Democrats would still have control of all 3 branches of government and actually have potentially picked up a seat in the Senate, depending on how the Georgia runoff goes in about a month's time. So I think a couple of those things that they could have done. Imagine if we saw a stock trading ban for members of Congress. Again, we would never see Nancy Pelosi do that in a million years. That would personally detriment her and a lot of members of Congress. I mean, we saw the unusual whales report that came out with all of the members of Congress who are trading better than hedge funds. I'm not naive to think that that would happen, but you would think that Democrats would want to do that. A lot of them do want to do that, but Nancy Pelosi does not. So imagine if that happens. That's popular amongst the American people. It at least gives some transparency of oh, they're trying to get rid of corruption. We all know that it's a very corrupt system, but at least the appearance of trying to get rid of it likely would have swayed some more voters in their favor. Even a lot of Republican voters would have seen that as a noble thing. And like I said, there was a lot of Republican voters who were already uneasy on a lot of their candidates' stance on abortion and several other things. So maybe you can potentially flip some votes there. Another one, legalizing marijuana. They, made some moves this summer, but they didn't go nearly as far, or this fall, they didn't go nearly as far as they could. If you put this up for a vote and folks can look at who's voting yes and no, again, I've got a lot of friends who are more to the right who all smoke marijuana. They would have looked at that and said, oh, so the Democrats are now, legalizing marijuana. I disagree with the Republicans' extreme stance on abortion, and they're trying to get rid of at least some corruption in Congress. Maybe I'll switch over my vote. That's just 2 things that I'm mentioning here that are not controversial. They shouldn't be controversial. The marijuana one may be slightly more so, but again, even a lot of conservatives, there's conservative members of Congress, Republican members of Congress who have already said that they would vote for a marijuana legalization bill. So, I mean, Democrats, all I'm basically trying to say is Democrats could have done more here to do this, and they shouldn't necessarily be just sitting there and taking credit for it, like I think that a lot of the establishment Democrats are just taking credit for. The reason that we did way better than everyone said is because of what we did. I'm just not sure. One other example, child tax credits. Imagine if Pelosi was like, hey, you know what, let's get this up for a vote as well. Again, these are things that they campaigned on for so long. Imagine if child tax credits were continued or extended, or they re-upped them. That would be putting real money in American families' pockets while they're struggling with inflation that's going on. You don't think that that would have potentially won over more votes? I mean, it's pretty clear to me that it would have. So, in reality, the Dems won way more seats than I thought they were going to. I thought they were losing the House for sure, which they did, but I thought they were going to lose it by a lot more. I also thought they were going to lose the Senate, so we'll see. And you know what? My guess is that this is not the last we see of Nancy Pelosi. Let me know if you think that she's actually done and just going to step aside. I'll probably disagree with you, but that is absolutely okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Definitely stay tuned for the live stream tonight. Sure to be a good show, as usual. Thanks very much for watching, and give me a follow on Twitter at LewisD217. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow.